What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Throtl YouTube channel. My name is Quinn, and today the boys at Mishimoto sent us a care package for our new 2021 STI Sweepstakes car. I'm very excited. We got a lot of cool fun stuff, a lot of cool upgrades. The factory stuff, factory radiator on this car is actually a single core. So we have a Mishimoto triple core X-line radiator that's going to be going in this thing. This is huge compared to the factory one. When we pull the stock radiator out, we'll compare the sizes, but this is way thicker. It's going to be nice. We can actually still fit the factory fans on this. It's going to be a complete replacement component, which is really cool. We have a set of upper and lower radiator hoses that are going to go on as well. These are silicone. They're much stronger than the factory rubber. We're going to be using Peak coolant. As always, we use Peak on pretty much every single car we have in here. We love it. We also have a oil cooler kit going on last. So this is going to be an upgrade over the stock cooler. This is going to be an air to liquid cooler. We're gonna have to pull the bumper off, mount it, make it look nice. We have full braided AN lines and a sandwich plate to top it off. So like the radiator, this is a direct replacement part. It's a direct fit part, so it's gonna bolt right on with no problems, no cutting, no modifications. Every product you see on the table here is available for purchase at throtlVIP.com. If you wanna get an oil cooler for your car, some heat exchangers, radiators, whatever you want, head over to throtlVIP.com. Every dollar you spend is gonna get you one entry to win our brand new 2021 STI plus $20,000 cash. So let's get the bumper torn off this car. Let's start taking all the old stuff off, and we can start installing our new shiny bits. So I just got our Undertray off. I do appreciate this being one piece. This is one piece of plastic. Evo 10 we did, it was like 19 pieces. It's brutal. But everything looks nice and clean up here, but no leaks. Everything looks good. The fact that these aren't all super rusty is actually really nice. Again, this is a brand new car, so I didn't know what I would expect to find except for brand new stuff, but this is nice. Alright, so our coolant is fully drained. I need to fish the drain plug out of the coolant because I dropped it in there. It's in there somewhere. I can't see it. I'm gonna grab a flashlight. And then I'm gonna take the lower hose off because there's probably more coolant in here still. As soon as we take it off, it's gonna be a mess. So we'll let that drain, put it back on, and we'll take the car down and start taking everything apart. Oh yeah.
So what's the benefit to putting those Mishimoto hoses on over those that we have?
They're silicone, these are rubber, so these like dry up with age and they crack and get old. Silicone doesn't really do that, which is nice, so they last a lot longer. That's nice. I like that it's like two independent fans. It's not like one big fan unit.
That is pretty cool, huh?
That is pretty nice, yeah. Made it a lot easier to come out. We're gonna take a quick break from today's video to talk to you about my friends over at Upstart. I was at AVS this weekend, drifting one of my cars, and it threw a connecting rod clean out the side of the block. Now I need to build a new engine for it, and that's one of the ways Upstart can help you with unexpected financial situations. Upstart has helped over 1.8 million people consolidate their credit card debt into one monthly payment. You can check your rate in minutes from loans between $1,000 and $50,000 without affecting your credit score at all, and you can have the funds in your account within one business day after your loan has been accepted. Upstart knows you're more than just your credit score, so rather than looking at your credit score alone, Upstart's models consider other factors like your income, employment, and other information provided in your loan application to find you a smarter rate for your loan. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high-interest debt, or funding personal expenses, Upstart can help you get one fixed monthly payment with a clear payoff date. Don't wait to check your rate today at upstart.com/throtl. That's upstart.com/throtl. Check your rate today. Use our URL to let them know we sent you, and let's get back into today's video. Look how thin this is. Good thickness difference. That's some beef and stuff right there. So we've got our radiator, factory radiator out, the upper and lower hose, and the fans out, and we have a lot of room. So I'm actually gonna utilize this time, take the front bumper off and start mounting our Mishimoto oil coolers. I'm afraid if I put the radiator in and all that stuff, I'm not gonna have as much room to play with running lines and installing the coolers, so we're gonna get that done. And then pretty much all we have to do is drop a radiator back in and our hoses. So we'll be done. Very easy removal and install for radiators on these cars. Everything's really simply laid out, which is really nice, and I appreciate that. Let's keep going. Our adapter plates. These are our mounting tabs that come with the kit. So this guy hangs back in here on the mount there, and the other one going to go something like that. So what that's going to do is actually going to put the cooler like right here. It's going to be something like that, which is a nice place for it. It's actually really compact and concise. You probably won't even really notice it's there, but it's doing its job. That's cool. So I'm gonna mock put this together and see what the best way to get this cooler set up in there is gonna be, because if I put the lines on and I can't get an Allen wrench back there to tighten them, then it's pretty much useless. So we might have to install it with the lines on. So I'm gonna put our bracketry on and see if I can sneak that in there, and then we'll put our lines on and see if I can do the same thing, kind of get together a good game plan on how this is gonna go together. State. What do you do? Beauty. That's actually going to where it's going to end up. Because this cooler is also vertical, we can actually prime it before we put it in, which is going to be nice. So we're going to put oil in this, and then we'll put our lines on, and then we can drop it in the car. So let's get these all nice and tight. So now we're going to install our oil lines onto the cooler. We're going to prime the cooler with some Motul 300V and then put this whole assembly up into our STI. So this cooler is in line in the oil system. So oil sits in your oil pan, you start your car, the oil pump pumps oil from the pan up into the pump, through the pump, and then usually it goes to the filter housing. In this case, we're adding an oil cooler. So it's gonna go through the filter housing, through this oil cooler, through the line, into the cooler, through the cooler, and then out the cooler, and then through oil passages in the engine block and galleries in the cylinder head in the engine block, and then it'll get to your cams, cranks, bearings, pistons, squirters, all that stuff. So in a lot of cases, the oil pressure comes on so quick that it may be milliseconds of delay between when you start the car and when oil pressure gets to bearings and all the cams and all that stuff. In a lot of cases in oil cooler installs, what you can do is prime the cooler. You can pre-fill the cooler with oil. So when you go to start the car, there's already oil in the cooler. That's what priming is. Typically, whenever I prime oil coolers, when we install oil coolers, like in the case of our Evo where it had two coolers on the side, because it has drain ports on the bottom, it's kind of a pain to prime them. So what I'll do is I will take the fuel injectors off and we'll crank the engine without any spark or any fuel going into the engine. That will reduce the amount of stress on the rod bearings and on the cylinders because you don't have the combustion air putting the forces on the bearings. Prime it that way. Another way you can do it is actually just pour it straight in. So when the oil gets pumped through the pan, through the pump, into the cooler, there's already oil in here, and so it just continues on with the cycle. It primes a lot faster. So that's what we're gonna do here. We've got some Motul 300V, so we're gonna be filling up the oil cooler with our Motul engine oil. We're gonna be putting the oil cooler lines on and then dropping the whole cooler on. It still is gonna have to prime the lines. It's just gonna make priming a little bit quicker because the cooler is already filled. So, question is, no funnel gang or funnel gang?
You know, no funnel's spicy, but funnel is like, you know, nice and clean. Looks like Quinn's choosing the no funnel option.
Should we go for it?
Whatever is easiest.
All right. You think I got it?
You're looking about, you're on. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, you don't got it.
I got it. No, I kind of got it. There was a little miss there.
Kind of got to send her quick. Yeah. There you go. All right, as you pour, look at the camera, say no funnel gang.
No funnel gang, baby. Just a little bit. All right, our oil cooler is bolted down. I'm gonna start working these lines through the plastic trays back here, and then we can start tackling our sandwich plate on the oil filter assembly itself. This is a really nice design. It's really concise and compact and fits very well. So I'm very excited how this turned out. Very nice piece. All right, it's the next day, guys. So yesterday we got the oil cooler mounted, installed, lines ran. I got the front bumper back on and all buttoned back up. So now we're gonna move back into the cooling system. I'm gonna drop the radiator on. I wanna get our fans back on, our overflow tank, and then get kind of their top wrapped up. We're gonna take the car back up, install our lower hose, and then install our oil cooler sandwich plate. And then we'll pretty much be done. We'll just have to put fluids in it and go drive it. So let's keep jamming.
So what's the benefit from a single core to triple core?
So volume. So heat exchangers work off the principle that the hot coolant enters the radiator, goes through the radiator, and transfers the heat from the coolant into the fins, which is the little wavy stuff on the side of the cooler. The factory core is single core. This one's a triple core. With a triple core, you have 2 additional cores compared to the stock radiator, which adds a lot more coolant capacity. You can have a lot more coolant flowing through this, which means you have a higher power cooling system, better fluid cooling capacity, which can keep the engine in much better shape, and the cooling system is much improved as far as a performance standpoint. With the aluminum end tanks, the problem with plastic is it doesn't really hold up to heat cycling very well. So when you have an engine right now, it's cold, so it's at room temperature, atmospheric temperature, and then when the engine's hot, it'll get up to 220. And then when you shut it back off, it goes back again to room temperature, like when it's overnight. So that's a heat cycle. So going from cold to hot back to cold. Plastic doesn't like the heat cycle very much, and so over a few years, the plastic end tanks will start to crack on the joint where the plastic meets the aluminum, because aluminum has a different thermal expansion rate than plastic does. So it's more of a longevity thing. These radiators, the end tank systems on them don't crack because it's welded together and it's not a plastic on metal kind of bonded interface. So they hold up a lot better in longevity, which is also a good thing. why you put one of these in, because better cooling, more cooling, better longevity, and it looks cool. This is the claw. This is my favorite oil filter removal tool. So what it does is it allows it to slide, but as soon as it grabs onto the filter, when you start turning it, it's going to tighten its grip, and then eventually it is gripping so hard that it overcomes the tightness of the oil filter and starts going. So if you watch when I turn it, it starts to clamp, and then it's going to like bite in, and then it's going to start turning the oil filter. Somebody put this filter on nice and tight. So now we get to install our sandwich plate. So this is the plate that actually we can adapt our AN lines to. So this is how the oil gets from the engine into our oil cooler through our AN line. So we're gonna mount this guy up and get it put together. So they gave us some shielding for our dash line, so we're going to cut this in half. And we're going to put some heat shielding here, because this stuff is the heat shield for the exhaust manifold. So we're going to put that on for additional shielding. That's also going to prevent it from rubbing through the AN line, which is nice. I got to take this line off so I can tighten that one, and then this one go back on, tighten everything down, and then we'll be done. Time to put oil in the STI. We're going to use good Motul 300V, baby. We use Motul in every single car here in the shop. It is fantastic. I love it. Let's put it in. If you guys want to save on your next oil change, use code Motul20 at throtlVIP.com. Get yourself some savings on some good Motul engine oil for your own car. got our cooling system completely bled. It's full of coolant. The fans kicked on, fans kicked off. Everything looks good. So before we put the Undertray on, I'm gonna bring this thing up for a quick look. So I'm checking for leaks. So our radiator is nice and dry. Nothing from the drain plug, nothing from the lower hose. Our oil cooler on the front is not leaking because if it was, there'd be oil here. I did notice we actually have a little bit of seeping. You can see that's a little oil bubble right there. So something on our cooler is leaking. Now this AN fitting here looks dry. This right there, that little corner is actually where the oil's coming from. So this fitting is not as tight as it should be. So we're gonna tighten that up, clean the oil back off, and then run it again and make sure it's not leaking. This is why I wait till after everything's done and everything's not leaking or to put the Undertray back on, because in most cases, these Undertrays have kind of this oil cloth, this right here. So this will actually absorb a lot of oil before it actually starts leaking out of the pan itself or the tray itself. So if we put this back on, it might be a month or two before we notice that the car is actually leaking, which in this case isn't very good, because if it's leaking a quart of oil and by the time we actually realize it's leaking oil and it's leaking on the ground, it's been leaking for a while and the pan is picking it up. So we're gonna fix this oil leak, make sure it's not leaking anymore, put the pan up, and then we'll be done. All right, we've got our fitting tightened. So we're gonna drop it back down, run it for a few minutes, make sure it doesn't leak. And if it's no longer leaking, then we can put our Undertray back on and call it done. Fittings are nice and dry. Let's get this Undertray bolted back up and get this car on the ground. All right, that's gonna do it for today's video, guys. We got our Mishimoto cooling system, radiator, upper lower hose, and oil cooler kit installed, along with some good peak performance coolant and also engine oil. So everything you see in this video today is available for shop at throtlv.com. So head over there. Every dollar you spend is gonna get you one entry to win our 2021 STI plus $20,000 cash. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
You're lost in your paradise.